You ever dig through a dusty old game bin or scroll past some forgotten title online and wonder, how have I never heard of this before? Sometimes you're rewarded with a hidden gem, an under-the-radar classic that punches way above the weight. Other time, you get a steaming pile of pixelated regret. In this video, we're diving headfirst into the strange, shadowy world of obscure games. The ones that slip through the cracks of mainstream fame, some are surprisingly brilliant, buried treasures that deserve a second life. Others, well, there's a reason no one talks about them. So grab your controller and prepare yourself for some weird, wild, and occasionally painful surprises. I'm Professor Retro. We're shining a light on the best and worst obscure games you probably never played. Released in 1995, Terragamia is an action role-playing game developed by Coordinate for the SNES, with a manga artist, I'm going to butcher the hell out of this, Kamui Fujiwara, acting as a character designer. However, sadly, it was never released outside of Japan. You play as Ark, the savior of the planet, and you live in the sleepy one-horse town of Christia. However, according to the elders, Ark was a bad boy, and for his punishment, he is tasked to go on a quest to resurrect the Earth. Now that is parenting. Imagine if your parents did that instead of the epic quest to go to your room. You are sent on an epic quest to save the planet. So not only do you go on this quest to save the planet, you must rebuild the planet by rescuing animals and growing trees. So basically you become PETA and a nature lover all in one. Terragamia is such a great game that even the combat system is awesome. Now, I love action role-playing games with real-time combat and makes the game fun. Don't get me wrong, I still have classic role-playing games, but this one is just so much fun. You can do running, dashing, and even jumping attacks to destroy those who wish to stop you from recreating the planet. And the lore of this game is deep, that it decided to play Socrates and give you philosophical advice without the hemlock cocktail. So if you like games with deep lore, real-time combat, and makes you ponder how Earth started, then Terragamia is the game for you. Now let's head straight into the first dumpster fire on the list. Plumbers Don't Wear Ties. Released in 1994 for all consoles, the 3DO. Nice, a bad obscure game made for an equally obscure console. They promised the player an interactive romantic comedy adventure. What you really get is a high school English project done at the last minute and turned in hoping it'll get an A. So you're wondering, how bad is it? Well, look at it. It looks like someone decided to Google what stock photos are and take the worst they could find. So if this is an adventure game, where's the animation? What you get are photos that look like your kid on school picture day. The emotions, well, they're all over the place. One minute you get come and get me eyes, and the next they look like they saw their property taxes. The voice acting is so bad that it sounds like the developer handed random people a script and said, "Here, read." The script is just as bad. Here, let me give you a small sample line. "I want you to be my dog." I didn't make that up. That's actually a line from the game. I prefer lines from Skyrim. At least Parsonic sounds like he meant it when he told you just because you can doesn't mean you should. Advice the developers should have taken. The game is one of those multiple choice games. You pick the wrong answer, then you get a wannabe game show yelling at you. No, you would think the title would have some deeper meaning. Nope. The title is only mentioned once in the game, and that is it. So, if you like bad choose-your-own adventure games that look like a stock photo nightmare, then Plumbers Don't Wear Ties is the game for you. Otherwise, this game needs to stay obscure. Here's another good one, Mischief Makers. Mischief Makers is a side-scrolling platformer developed by Enix before they merged with Squaresoft in 1997. You play as Marina, a robot created by Professor Theo, and like most professors in video games do, he gets kidnapped. After finding this up, Marina goes into action. Well, instead of getting ratty, she decides to shake things up a bit. And yes, I do mean shake. This is what she does, folks. She shakes things up like she's trying to shake some sense into someone. Jesus. I said shake too many times there, and let's not forget you also can ride missiles like Dr. Strangelove. For those of you who have no clue what that is, well, it's an old black and white movie from 1964. Ah, yes, the classics. Now back to the main topic. The bosses in this game are also all over the place, and here are some of them. A flying cat demon, a giant robot crab, and something that looks like a rejected sentient Power Ranger having a mental breakdown. The sound is confusing. All Marina says is shake, shake. It's like she was hired to say that by the makers of the Shake Weight. So if you want to play something that is as fun and out there as a bizarre indie film, then by all means play Mischief Makers. Here's another bad one for you, Tales of the Tempest. Released in 2006, Tales of the Tempest is the 15th entry in the massive Tales series, a beloved series with this game as its black sheep. Tales of the Tempest is so bad that if you were to mention it to a die-hard Tales series fan, they'd cringe and run for the hills. The combat system is bad, and how bad, you ask? Well, take the beloved combat system of the first 14 games and throw that away. Then put in something that looks like two people fighting in molasses. The controls are stiff and lanky, and your AI partner, well, he's more like the one cousin who sits back and holds your beer while you do something completely stupid. Remember those wonderful graphics you loved in the first few games? Well, forget all that here. The graphics look like someone asked a third grader to draw something. So here's the plot. You play as Cassius, who is a werewolf, or as the game calls them, Daemon, which the game calls a fancy word for werewolf, which is wrong. The true fancy word is lycanthrope. Basically, the three main ingredients in the plot are racism, discrimination, and magic stones. That is it. This sounds like a game you play in school to teach kids how to be nice. Here, Billy, since you picked in the Susie, you get to play Tales of the Tempest and learn to be nice. The game's pacing is so fast, it makes a bullet train look slow. The game rushes you through each plot point like it's late for school on test day. Character development? Gone. Emotional connection? Non-existent. Any sense of pacing? That stayed at the title screen to watch you fail. Your three main characters are Cassius, Rubia, and Tikis. And that last one has the worst combat I've ever seen in a game. His moves look more like the weakest kid on the playground trying to fight the school bully. And instead of the bully pushing him down, he has tripped over himself and landed face first on the pavement. Ruby's character arc is nothing more than trust issues. That's it, trust issues. Now let's talk about some of those technical issues. First, I forgot to mention this game came out for the DS. The voice acting sounds like someone was speaking into an old soup can pretending to be an old-time radio. And the fact that it runs on a wonderful slow 12 frames a second doesn't help it either. Basically, before you go and save the town, you have to wait for it to buffer. Tales of the Tempest is so bad that Bandai Namco forgot about it. It was supposed to be a mainline game, but after they saw how bad it is, they then classified it as a spin-off game. To me, this game was more like that one game your grandmother got you for your birthday because it was cheap. And you played it once, buried it deep in your closet, never to be mentioned again. And here's another good one, Clash at Demon's Head. Released in 1989 for the NES. Now, I did a video on this a while ago, why I love this hidden gem, so I will leave a link to that in the description and in the pinned comments. So the plot is like this. You play as Billy Big Bang Blitz, a guy who wears sunglasses as he fights mutants and climbs walls. Sort of like Duke Nukem, but with less attitude. Now you might be wondering what the plot of this game is. Well, the game throws plot points at you like a pro axe thrower and you're the target. First you have to save your professor friend. See, I told you back in Mischief Makers, professors always get kidnapped. The next you're going after a demon called, and lastly you have to find medallions to stop a doomsday device. Why is it always a doomsday device? Why can't it be something nicer? Clash at Demon's Head was supposed to be linear. However, the developers decided otherwise and gave you a map and said, here, choose your path and hope for the best. One game I know that also does this is Captain America. So, with all that being said, what makes Clash at Demon's Head so awesome? Well, it is the spontaneity. One path might lead you to treasure, and one path might lead you to a rock-throwing yeti. So if you're like me and love games that are as confusing but fun at the same time, then Clash at Demon's Head is for you. And here's another bad one, Cybermorph. So back in 1993, Atari came back with a poof. With the Atari Jaguar, the console was supposed to have the best graphics that would make all the other consoles look bad. And the first game they released for it was Cybermorph. Now at first glance you might be awestruck by the polygons. However, once you play this, it all goes out the window. And you're left with polygons and sadness. Now let me get right to the heart of the first mistake this game has, and that is your co-pilot, a polygon head named Skylar that makes fun of you when you make a mistake with one phrase, and that is,
"Where did you learn to fly?"
Really, you expect someone to enjoy the game while being gaslit at the same time? Now remember when I said at the beginning you might be awestruck by the polygons? Well, after playing the game, that all changes. The graphics, or rather the lack thereof, look like a kid's lesson in complex shapes. Come on, man, there's low poly and then there's this. The developers asked the kid to draw a shape he learned in school, but halfway through the drawing the kid got bored and left. The sound design is bad. Now a good game soundtrack makes you excited and want to keep playing it, get you pumped up. Here, well, you get nothing. Maybe an occasional pew pew, but that's it. It's just you and your mind telling you that the game was a bad choice and now you're stuck with it. The controls are horrible. It is like trying to push a cart with that one wheel that makes you always turn where you don't want to go. Want to head to cereal? Sorry, Cybermorph says go to cheese. So what is the plot of the almighty Cybermorph? Who the hell knows? All I know is you collect pods and that is it. You have no clue where they come from and who are collecting them for. It's like the game thinks you're a convict who has been sent just to pick up small rocks instead of trash on the street. So if you like bad Star Fox ripoffs, with bad polygons and even worse controls, then go out and get this train wreck of a game. For those of us who wish to stay far away from playing a crap game and getting gaslit at the same time, run far away. So let's wrap this one up with one last good game. Moon Remix RPG Adventure. Moon is a role-playing adventure game released in 1997 by Love Dulik in Japan and by ASCII Entertainment in the States for the PlayStation. Now, instead of playing the hero in Moon, you play a kid who is tasked to clean up after the hero as he goes on a grinding fest for experience. Basically, the hero has gone insane and he decided anything, good or evil, that crosses his path needs to die, and you have to collect their soul. Now, you might be wondering how you level up. Well, forget about that. Instead, worry about your love level. The more souls you collect, the higher your love level goes. Now, this is the one game that has vibes. Yes, you heard me right, vibes. And what type of vibes do you get? Well, you heard on Netflix and chill? Well, take that instead of Netflix, you get a fever dream instead. Moon is what happens when someone says, let's make an Undertale game before Undertale was even created and without the kill everything in your path mindset. You basically save the world by being nice to it. So if you want to experience a wonderful fever dream that might inspire you to be nice, then Moon is the game for you. So thanks for hanging out with me as we explored the wild world of obscure games, hidden gems, the forgotten disasters, and everything in between. Whether they were surprisingly brilliant or a glorious bad train wreck, each one had something unique to offer. It just goes to show, sometimes the most interesting stories aren't found in the biggest tales, but tucked away in the games hardly anyone ever remembers. If you enjoyed this trip through gaming's forgotten corners, don't forget to like, subscribe, and let me know what your favorite obscure game is down in the comments below. I am Professor Retro, reminding you to keep exploring. You never know what you might find. Peace out and stay frosty.